Hello and welcome to today's episode. Today we had a phenomenal guest talking to us all about the heart. Teresa Palmer is a nurse practitioner and she practices in the USA, but she's not just a heart practitioner. She also connects the mind, the spirit, the body, and the heart. So when we're talking about heart health, we're not talking about all those things that we know we should be doing, all the exercises and eating right, but the power of the heart, the third brain, or even the first brain. We are talking about how you can connect yourself and your heart and your brain together. And Teresa has some amazing advice, amazing tips that are really simple to utilize, but yet they are very, very powerful. So do come, grab a cuppa, and just come and sit and listen, and even put your hand on your heart while you're listening and help your health and your heart together.
And did you know that we have a Patreon account? And on our Patreon account, you will be able to find incredible gold nuggets from our guests. And today, we had another fantastic gold nugget from our guest. So you can join us for free. You can sign up and start browsing additional content. They're short videos, but really this is the essence of the lesson from our guests. So we'll put the links in the description, and we really hope that we will see you in Patreon. But if you know what, let's go with the conversation and let's get started. So hi Teresa, welcome.
Thank you for having me today.
We're so excited to have you here. So, for us and for our listeners, could you please tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, what you do, and what really gives you the energy in the morning to wake up and just get going?
Okay. I am a nurse, an advanced practice nurse or nurse practitioner. My expertise is holistic cardiology, which means that I bridge the gap between traditional Western medicine cardiology and Eastern practice spirituality, Eastern medicine. I kind of bring it all together. So that's what I do. What gets me up in the morning is I'm so passionate about connecting people to their heart. And the reason is your heart is your inner knowing, your heart is your self awareness. And without self awareness, there's no self care. You can't take care of yourself. And the interesting thing is, if you look at the statistics, in the United States alone, the leading cause of death is heart disease. And it's been unchanged for many years, despite the fact that the American Heart Association, the Medical Association, the Nursing Association, any health organization has promoted self care, public awareness, public education. It hasn't made a difference. And in the world globally, heart disease is still the fifth cause of death around the world. So something's missing. And the missing piece, in my opinion, is that we're not self aware. We're kind of taught to go outside ourselves for the answers and not trust ourselves, not trust our inner knowing, our intuition. So for the past 20 some years, in a private cardiology practice, I've not only done traditional cardiology, but I've added this piece of connecting people to their heart physically, getting to know themselves physically so that they know when there's a change, emotionally, processing and sitting with emotions through the heart, and that helps manage stress. And then spiritually, because our heart are higher than us, and it doesn't matter what you call that power. Could call it anything that you want, but there is something, I guess, greater than us out there, and that's what we need to connect into. And so, in a private practice, I had good results with people, making them self aware. As they became more self aware, they were able to practice self care. As they practiced self care, they had better outcomes because the people I dealt with did have heart problems, heart conditions. So that's a little bit about me.
It is so fascinating, and you tapped on one of the things that we've been talking on a lot. I always bring this point, and for me, it was one of the biggest lessons on my health and well-being, wellness journey, and that's the listening to ourselves. That's really being empowering people, learning and understanding that we have so much inner wisdom, we have so much inner magic, we have so much wonderful inner energy, but we're never properly taught to listen to it. You know, I always say that from the moment we're born, we're listen to your parents, listen to the elderly, listen to the teachers, listen to the bosses, listen to the authorities, to the doctors, to the influencers, and never it is, or luckily we're getting slowly there, and in our circles we can start seeing it a little bit more to, well, listen to yourself, listen to your intuition. But it's such a long process, and it's such a journey to really know how to trust your gut, how to listen to your intuition, how to open up your ears, not just your ears but your whole body. And I love that you made a connection then to the heart, that it's, you know, how our heart health is not only, you know, what we eat, what kind of a diet do we have, do we do enough cardio, you know, all the things that, again, the Western medicine, we know what we should be doing for heart conditions. And yet, as you said, there still is a pandemic, there still is a huge issue. So one thing it could be that physiologically we may not be doing as much for it as we should, but I love that you're bringing in so many of the different layers of importance and possibilities of healing our heart and preventing any kind of a cardiac issues.
Right. Because also 90%, it's estimated that about 90% of heart conditions, and I hate to use the word disease, because to me, disease means that you're hopeless. And it's certainly not hopeless with any heart condition at all. There's always something you can do to help yourself. So, with 90% of heart conditions that could be prevented, and the American Heart Association says action by the self, the individual, which means self care. Only 15% of people polled actually even knew, I'm sorry, 30% of people practice self care. 15% of people knew what self awareness was. So, as you said, we do a lot externally. There's, oh God, there's so much information, diet, managing stress. But really, how do we do that? You have to know yourself, and you have to know what your body, mind, and spirit needs in order to be successful with that. And we don't listen to ourselves. If you look at children, children spontaneously are guided by their heart because they haven't been that socially conditioned yet. Sure, they listen to their parents, teachers, but it's really adolescence and adulthood where we're told, get out of your heart and into your head because the brain is logical. And that's the message. Oh, the heart is emotional and it's not going to lead you anyplace. Think with your mind. It's the emotions, it's that intellect. And that's where we miss the boat because we are the only ones that could help ourselves, each individual. And that's regardless of whether it's health, everyday life, anything. We have to be able to listen to ourselves, and we're taught to ignore it. I love the fact that there's a commercial. And granted, the commercial talks about listening to your heart, but it does it with the intent of telling people to take cholesterol medication. And I believe, yes, there's a place for medication, there's a place for everything. But what's interesting to me about the commercial is that it has a person sitting with a healthcare provider with their heart next to them. And the physician or practitioner says, oh, we have to get your cholesterol down. And the heart starts talking to the person, actually having a physical conversation, telling the person, okay, the message is you need to take this medication. But the deeper message and the more important message is to listen to your heart. And in the commercial, it does say, listen to what your heart is telling you. So I'm so glad that there's now a commercial out there that, and I hope people get the deeper meaning of it, that it's not just about cholesterol medication, that it's really about you, about connecting with your heart, connecting to yourself.
Loving this conversation, and the heart is something that I am very passionate about, but not the physical heart, not on a medical level, but more on a spiritual and emotional level. Because when we are not connecting to our emotions, we're shutting down our heart. And one of the, well, two things that I've come across recently is a book by Greg Braden. I read it about a year ago, and it's called Resilience of the Heart. And he talks very much about the heart. And not many people know this, but there's actually a third brain. You know, we talk about our brain and our gut brain, but there's actually a third brain is in our heart. We've got a heart brain as well. And he also talks a lot about the Heart Math Institute. And at first I thought, well, that's got to do with maths. What has maths got to do with the heart? But it's actually more about connecting with your heart and about embracing your emotions. Because when we start to get in touch with our emotions, is we then open up our heart and are more connected to what our heart is saying, what we're feeling. Because we suppress our emotions, we suppress our feelings in order to not upset somebody, or, oh, don't be so dramatic. Are you're just a woman? Are you going through that time of the month? Just, deal with it. Don't be angry. Don't be upset. Tears and grief make other people uncomfortable, so we suppress them. Joy is, you can have a little bit, but too much joy is what's wrong with you. Or what pills are you on? There, you this joyful. So we've had to learn to suppress our real emotions, and there's so many emotions. It's not just what anger, joy, and sadness. There's so many emotions, and there's emotions attached to the emotions. So I'm really loving that you're talking about connecting the physical heart as well as the emotional heart and the spiritual heart, because we as humans, that is what makes us human, is our heart, is our emotions, is how we feel things, how we see things. And there's nothing wrong with emotions. There's nothing, there's nothing, they're not wrong. We've just been programmed to not experience them and not understand them, because they can sometimes also be extremely uncomfortable for ourselves as well as for other people around us. So I love how you're bringing the two together. And it'd be great if that advert took it a step further and just said, listen to your heart. What does it want spiritually or emotionally as well as medically? But it's great that there's something there, and hopefully people will start to see that the heart is not just a pump in our bodies, but so much more than just this thing that pumps blood from A to B and through the body. There's so much, and we are only now starting to touch the surface of how the heart really looks and what it does. And I just think that that's really beautiful that you are talking about it and helping your patients in clinic. But one thing I'd love for you to share with us is, somebody is now listening, or they're thinking, okay, I'm getting that my heart is more than just a blood pump. How can somebody start to really connect with listening to their heart, or to connect with what their heart is saying to them? Because it's not an easy process.
Yeah, let me get into that. First, I'd like to say that our heart is actually our first brain. 3.5 weeks after conception, you have a heartbeat. 4 to 4.5 weeks after conception, the brain in the mind forms. And then after 5 weeks, around 5 weeks, you have the brain in your gut. So if you look at it that way, your heart is actually your first brain, because 3.5 weeks after conception, you have a heartbeat. You now are an entity that has a beating heart. And the heart is much more than a pump. It really is. I mean, it's miraculous that it pumps so much blood through the body. It sustains life, it gives life, but there's so much more to it. And that's why we need to listen to our heart. So, how do you begin? The first thing I teach people is to place their hand over their heart. Because if you start physically, it's the easiest. Place your hand over your heart, just close your eyes, feel your heartbeat. Your heartbeat, not the rhythm, but the heartbeat itself, that lub dub that you're feeling is unique to you. There are no two heartbeats that are alike. And that's why it's so important to get to know your heart. So when you place your hand over your heart, feel that heart beating. What does it feel like? That's really the first step, is to get to know your heart on that physical basis. Then you could say, is my heart beating fast? Is my heart beating slow? A fast heartbeat, and this isn't medical stuff, this is more the emotional, spiritual. A fast heartbeat could be you're doing too much in your life or you're moving too fast and you need to slow that down. A slow heartbeat could be, hey, get moving. You've got things to do and you've been putting them off. You've been lollygagging around and not getting it done. So the heart gives you the motivation and the inspiration. So you could look at it that way. So that's the first piece, is to feel your heart. Then what I tell people is once they get comfortable feeling their heart, is when their eyes are closed, to have no distractions, to take 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes out of every day, to sit quietly. And I usually tell people to do it while they're still in bed. So they could sit up in bed or lie down in bed. Put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and don't think. If any, we're human beings. So when they tell you to empty your mind, you can't empty your mind. There's going to be thoughts, but you don't dwell on them. So what you do is if a thought comes in your mind, you say, thank you for coming. And you continue to just concentrate on your breath, breathing in, breathing out. I usually tell people breathe into the count of 8 through your nose, pause for a second or so, if that's comfortable. If it's not, then just breathe out through your mouth. And you'll begin to see how your breath and your heart come together. And that's what heart math really is all about. Is about, they call it the coherence between the heart and the breath. Now, when you do that, what happens is you also get your heart, the brain in your heart, connected to the brain in your head. So it's on the same page. Okay. The brain in our head is merely a computer. Okay. However you react to a situation, you're going to react every time the same way until you can change that pattern. Now, if you connect your heart with your brain, your heart gives you time, and your heart your heart sends a message to the brain that everything's okay and you don't need the stress hormones. And that's where we get in trouble, is with those stress hormones, because we live in a state of what I call chronic stress, or I even call it post-traumatic stress syndrome, that we're all so conditioned to that. So that sitting quietly is so important. Hand on your heart, breathe. Don't worry about what's coming into your mind. Just let it float away. And that's how you make that connection, heart and mind. Okay. What starts to happen, and it takes about 30 days. So nothing that's really good happens overnight. And that's with anything in life. There's no overnight success. There's no overnight weight loss. There's no overnight. There's a process. So when you start to do that every day for 30 days, That's how you begin to listen to your heart, because now you have the time and you have the space. You've cleared that headspace. You're not thinking, oh, I have to do the laundry. I have to do this. I have this at work. I'm stressed out about this. You're thinking about nothing. You're just in that space. And some people call that space bliss. And in a lot of Eastern traditions, that's what they do call bliss, is that space of emptiness. And that's what's meant by emptying the mind, not saying that you can't think about anything, not concentrating on any thoughts that come into your mind. Now you have the chance to listen to your heart. And the heart can speak to you in many ways. Your heart, you could get a message that says, do this, or this is important. You may get a feeling. Okay. Anything that comes from the heart is a good feeling, and that's your intuition. Your heart is never going to make you feel uncomfortable or afraid. It's your ego, your mind, that makes you fear things. But the heart is always going to be calming. So if you begin to listen, you'll start to get messages, and you'll start to, in your own way, get out of that little mind, the ego, and really get more into what's called the higher self. And that's the spiritual part of connecting to your heart, is connecting to that higher power, connecting to authentically who you are without trying to please anybody, without trying to be something that you're not, without masking your emotions. And that's when you truly can be guided by your heart, because now you understand the whole process. And for some people, it takes a really long time. I've had patients that really didn't like the fact that they wanted to sit, that I wanted them to sit quietly, because sometimes it's uncomfortable if you're not used to it being with yourself. And we're also told to be productive. So if you take 5 minutes and you're sitting there or lying there like this and connecting with yourself, you could appear lazy. I mean, you're not, but socially, you could appear very lazy. I remember one time, I was going to speak at an event, and you're backstage first, and I was preparing myself. So what I did was I just kind of put my hand on my heart. Then I took my hand away, but I closed my eyes and I did breathing. Well, it was funny because there was somebody else backstage that thought I fell asleep, and that wasn't the case at all. And they came over to nudge me to wake me up. And they said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine." They said, "Well, were you sleeping?" I said, "No, I was just getting myself centered to go on stage." And the person looked at me like I had 12 heads. Like, what on earth? And I swear that person probably still to this day thinks that I was sleeping, that I was tired and fell asleep right before I was to give the talk. So, again, I digress with that, but it's so important to get to know ourselves. So start with the physical, because that's the easiest, and most people could identify with that. Get to know what your heartbeat is. How is your heart beating? It's unique to you. Then sit with emotions. Don't think about anything. Connect your heart and your head. So this way, if you're feeling, say, grief, you're feeling unhappy, you have time to process that, because the brain is automatic. It's a computer. It's not going to sit back and process and say, how could I either change this situation, or maybe I can't. And one of my mentors always said, you have to sit in the oven until you're fully baked. You can't rush anything, and you have to sit with emotions. And then spiritually, that inner connection about, what is my intuition telling me? Is my intuition telling me to move forward with a project? Is my intuition telling me that I need to sit back and I need to take some time? What is my intuition telling me? And then it becomes easier and easier to be what I call guided by your heart, to be that intuitive person that knows themselves physically, so that when something is amiss, you're the first one that catches it. Okay, if you notice something, you're listening to your heart, something's not right. Yeah, then it's time, if it continues, to get that checked out. You're listening to yourself emotionally. It's okay to feel grief. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. How can I either change this, or what could I do to deal with this at the time? Or do I just have to be unhappy? There's nothing wrong with that. You don't need an antidepressant for what's called situational depression, which is something happened, you lost a job, you lost something. And now you need to grieve and you need to feel those emotions. If you can't get out of bed and you can't do anything, that's a call to action to see a provider, because then you need medication or formal therapy. But for most of us, we just don't want to feel sad, or we're told that we can't. You know, you ask somebody how they're doing. I'm not saying go out to the world and everybody you meet say, oh, I lost my job, this happened, that happened, I'm feeling this way. No, that's for your close friends, your family, your confidants. But nothing says we have to feel good all the time. Yet people expect us to. And nobody would want to hear if you didn't, except for your confidants. So we always mask who we are for society, because society wants us to be a certain way.
I just love sitting back and listening to you talk. And you've answered half of my questions already, which is fantastic. You make our job so much easier. Could listen and take it all in. But one thing that I'm so glad that you mentioned, for me, I'm obsessed with breath work. The moment I discovered the power of our breath and understood a little bit of the science, a little bit of the neuroscience, a little bit of the magic of how, with this thing that we have, that always is there since the moment we're born, how we can actually tap into our other automatic systems, how breath work is connected, how breath is connected to our heart, how it's connected to our digestion, to our, explain how it's connected to our brain. And I love that, we're kind of bridging the scientific and the spiritual gap here, that we're bringing in like actual medical research and showing, yes, if you breathe in a certain way, and we've done wonderful episodes about specific breath work, about all the different ways we can really tap into our health and well-being, and really thrive in life with the power of our breath. But now how we can also use it to listen and to communicate with our heart, like how through breath and through our heart we can then influence our brain, because sometimes we can't think ourselves out of freaking out of being stressed, out of feeling emotions, out of being out and about, but we can breathe ourselves into, and we can find a way to connect with our body. So I'm just so glad that you mentioned breath vortex. For me, it's always such a happy coincidence when I can be like, oh, and we had an episode about that, and I love that we're connecting the dots here.
Yeah, breath work is so important. And, a lot of what I do also with clients is I teach them how to breathe. And some people are interested in different techniques. There's different techniques of breathing, alternate nostril, different things. And I won't go into that. Uh, but intentional breathing. And that means to breathe deliberately, because breath is automatic. The breath is our breath of life. Without breathing, you can't survive. Without your heart, you can't survive. So it's natural that those two things go together. But we don't have to think about breathing, and we don't have to think about our heart beating. So we tend to take shallow breaths. And when we take a shallow breath, not only are we not getting enough oxygen into our whole system, but we're actually denying ourselves access to this breath of life, of this spark, this energy that ignites us and also helps us with our intuition. So breathing is important. And I always tell people, just be conscious of your breathing. How you're breathing in and out. Are you taking a deep breath? When you take a deep breath, you automatically turn off the stress hormones. The fight or flight, you cannot have fight or flight when you're breathing a deep breath, because it automatically puts you in a state with the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve. Automatically turns off the stress hormones. It's not going to do it all day and all night long. That's why you have to be conscious of how you're breathing, because the more you could connect with your breath, and it doesn't have to be a fancy breath work, the more that you connect with the anti-stress mechanism. And your heart also, when you breathe, the heart also sends a message to the brain of relaxation, of turning off the stress hormones. So that's why it's important, not only breathing, but get your heart and your breath both on the same page. Your heart is your superpower, and that's where your personal power comes from. I always tell people you can't be empowered without connecting to your heart, because that's where our power lies. That's where this power is. And it's miraculous that our heart beats. It really is. And science can't really tell you why the heart beats, which I found fascinating. All they know is that it beats. So, with that said, it's miraculous that the heart sends nutrients, oxygen, sustains life. But the heart also is our ally against stress, because when we breathe and when we connect to our heart, we're connecting to the parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve runs straight through the heart, from the spine straight through the heart. So you're connecting with how to manage and reduce stress. So it's one method of turning off those stress hormones and to begin to manage stress. So that's another power the heart has. I already mentioned that your heart connects you to your inner power, your higher power, your inner being, who you are. And that's so important for us, because that's again where our power comes from. And our heart connects us to our intuition. And our intuition is what guides us. So, really, our heart is our superpower. It's so much more than just a pump. And that's what I've been working with individuals, and now preparing to go online more, to do more with social media, about how important the heart is. And self awareness is the first step in that. I call it heart consciousness, and it's taking your heart health to another level. It's taking heart health to the next level. And that next level is a layer of not only what you're doing physically, because most of those things are external, but what you're doing with your inner landscape. How are you on the inside? Because everything starts with us. Each individual is, each of us has the power to change and to be the change that we even want in the world. But it starts with us. It doesn't start with something else out there. It starts with us, body, mind, and soul.
I love how you said our heart is our superpower. It's so simple, but it's so truthful and powerful. And I love how you shared that. And when you were talking about, what our listeners can do to connect with heart, I mean, our listeners know that when it comes to meditating, that's been an interesting journey for me. It's been a road that I'm still traveling on, but it's not a smooth road. But one thing I did find is through Greg Braden's book, and I'm actually now reading Anna Sanchez's book, The Four Gifts, and both of them talk about you putting your hand on your heart and just breathing in and breathing out. And that in itself is a form of meditation, just listening to your breath or feeling your breath. How does it feel? But I would like to just add one more little exercise on top of the one that you've given. And this is what I've read with Anna Sanchez as well as Greg Braden, is once you've got the breathing and you've got your hand on your heart and you're breathing and you are quiet and finding that place of still, is one of the things I recommend is think of something or somebody that you love, an animal, a beautiful scenery, nature, a loved one. It doesn't matter, but something or someone that brings you joy, that helps you to feel gratitude, and picture putting that in your heart, is visualize that and doing that every day. And this is also something that the Heart Institute recommends as well, is finding that way to bring gratitude into your heart to help with your health, your heart health. Let me try that again. Your health, your heart health. And I just wanted to add that, because that is an extra thing that you can add to that simple lying down, sitting with your hand on your heart, that breathing, but visualizing or feeling that emotion that something brings to you. And I said, it can be a loved one, it can be a pet, it can be animals, it can be nature. It doesn't matter. As you said, everybody is individual. So I just wanted to add that, because I thought this is such a powerful conversation, and there's such a simple step that you can do to help yourself. And one thing I really love is simple, because I think sometimes we overcomplicate things, and yet not everything has to be complicated. So I just wanted to add that and bring that in for our listeners, if they wanted to take it that extra step further and bring in that gratitude and really help to listen to your heart, because gratitude is so powerful. And you listening to your heart, you're starting to feel the rhythm of your heart, you're starting to learn to listen to what it is why not bring that extra in to give yourself that extra boost or that extra bit of support that you need, and that gratitude. So thank you for starting it and reminding me of this book that I'm reading just as you were giving that exercise. And as Lenka says, breath work is so important as well. And just doing that simple exercise with that breath work, hand on heart, is an easy meditation. For me, it's the one way that I can actually meditate. And I have made a minute. I have made it a minute. I'm
That's
really
good.
chuffed with myself. So this is something that I am saying that I have found this a way that I can meditate. So on that note, I just wanted to ask is, we talk a lot about the emotional and the spiritual connecting to heart. But if you're connecting to heart and you are doing these exercises and you are just finding that struggling with that connection, how would you help your clients or your patients to take it that bit, or to learn to listen? Because we have been so programmed not to listen. And as you said, it's not a quick fix. It does take time. But I'm sure you've come across patients who've really found it difficult, even about beyond the 30 days. What is the advice that you share then when there is just that difficulty of taking it beyond?
I think one thing is, and especially in the medical profession, is most of my success comes from people that are interested in going beyond traditional medical care. So that's really the first thing, that people have an interest that there is more out there and they could connect to that. If they're really not interested, that's fine. It's up to the individual. But if they're struggling, one of the things I always tell people is that even if you take a minute out of your day to just sit quietly, to begin that process of sitting quietly, maybe you need movement. There's people that I've told, take a walk in nature. When you take a walk, don't put your earbuds in, don't listen to music or do anything like that. Just walk and look around. What's around you? Are birds singing? Do you see a squirrel? Are dogs around? What are you connecting to? Because that puts you in the present moment. And what prevents people and makes them struggle is they have trouble being in the present moment. So if somebody's having problems with meditation, with the connecting, they're having trouble being in the present. So a lot of times they need movement, because some people can't sit still. I've had clients that can't sit still. They don't like to sit still, but yet I also introduced them to things like yoga and yoga connects you to the present moment because it's not competitive. So I will have people teach them simple yoga, nothing that's complicated. Take a walk in nature if you like walking. Maybe you like cycling, the same thing. When you're cycling, you have to pay attention to what's going on around you. So that's a great way, if you're a cyclist, to get in the present moment, because if you're not, you could have an accident. So things like that, any type of movement, dance. Maybe there's a particular, just moving your body and moving your arms and legs. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but all those things ground you in the present. And the other thing that I work with people, I also work with the chakras. So, yes, some people are interested, some people aren't, and that's fine. But when I introduce people to the chakras, I introduce them to standing or sitting and grounding themselves. And that's the sacral chakra, that grounding to the earth. So I will tell people to envision a string that actually goes from the top of their head and goes down through the earth and keeps them grounded. So that's another technique, is teaching people how to be grounded, teaching people even just to stand with bare feet or socks on. When you sit, grounding your buttocks, because those are your sits bones. That's what's grounding you to the earth. So a lot of times those techniques will help people because now you're giving them also something else to do besides just sit quietly. So if you absolutely can't sit quietly, I would try it at least for a minute. But if you can't, take a walk, dance, maybe play with your pet, maybe just sit outside and observe a tree or observe a bird, observe butterflies, observe something. And that's getting in the present moment. Because in order to do any of the work, you really have to be present. And that's probably the hardest thing for people because we're always told to be productive. We're always told to do things. I have clients that if they don't have a packed schedule, they can't go on with, oh, I have to do this at 2, I have to do this at 3. I could squeeze you in at, I've got 2:05 to 2:06 free that we could talk for a few minutes. And that's really no way to live. What you're doing is you're occupying your time so that you don't have to look at yourself. And it's important that we look at ourselves. It may not be the easiest thing, but we have everything we need inside of us. And in order to access that, we do have to spend time with ourselves. And I think once we get used to it, it becomes easier. I don't think maybe one or two, I've had a couple of, in my private practice, I had probably one or two patients that really said to me, I don't want to be involved with meditation. I don't want to be involved with yoga. I don't care how I breathe. Um, if I'm nervous, I want a pill to alleviate that. And what I try to do is get them involved in some sort of movement, and it does help them. If somebody's really resistant, they're going to be resistant. And at that point, there's nothing you could really do. But those are far and few between. So I hope I answered that question.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much. And yeah, movement, dance. We've had somebody recently talking about just dancing, just moving, and that was her happy place. And she said colors and unicorns. But it's just about dancing. And I guess if you getting into it, maybe do put on a song that you really love and enjoy, listen to the words and just focus on the words and just get you going, because sometimes it is slightly easier to start dancing when there's a nice song on than just randomly moving your body, which is fine as well. But it's finding what works and trying different things. So one thing might not work, but just try something else until you find what does work. because not one size fits all. So thank you for sharing all that. That has been such brilliant advice, and again, really simple tools to use. And this is what it's about. It's about simplifying our lives, not overcomplicating our lives. Hop on to our Patreon account to get this episode's amazing and wonderful gold nugget. Now, for our listeners, if they have listened to this conversation and they are thinking, wow, I need to know more about my heart, I need to connect with Teresa, I want to find out more, where can people find you? And can you also share about your book as well, so that people can maybe get your book, but also where can people find you?
Okay, sure. Right now, I'm in the process of revamping my website. So the website right now is not up. I have somebody working on that with me. So probably the best way to communicate with me right now would either be through Facebook, and it's just Teresa Palmer, Teresa, Palmer, Palmer. I do have a business page which is being connected to my Facebook. I'm not the greatest with social media. I have things that are kind of all over the place and disjointed. So I have somebody that's bringing everything together, the person that's also doing my website. But I have a heart page called Take Your Heart Health to the Next Level. People could private message me. I could be found on Instagram, and that's at well underscore being underscore gal. So that would be another way to reach me. You could always message me on that. I could give my email. It's an old one. I'm kind of showing my age here. It's T as in Tom, E as in Eric, R as in Rick, Palmer, my last name, all one word, at MSN. That'd be like maryscottnancy.com. So that's another way to get in touch with me. My book was published in 2022 through the sister publishing company of Hay House, which is Balboa Press. And it's available not only on balboapress.com, amazon.com, it's now on booksamillion.com and barnesandnoble.com. And I would recommend the book. It's written for lay people. It's not written for healthcare professionals. It's very easy to understand. And I really give everybody all the knowledge and the tools that they need to succeed in connecting to their heart. And I like to say I'm the nurse that connects individuals to their heart. And by connecting individuals to their heart, I connect them to themselves. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Obviously, all the links and everything will be in the description below. So if people want to find you out, they can just simply click on them and find you wherever it works for them. And I have one last question. So we talked about, the self-care. We talked about finding more life in your life. That's what we are all about here on the podcast. And I'm curious, what gives you life right now?
What gives me life is really my passion for helping others. And right now, I'm transitioning from what I did privately, work with patients in a private practice, to going online, to really helping people on a more global basis, to help them with the self-awareness, which is the heart consciousness, connecting to their heart. I also love writing. And what I forgot to mention is I write for two online publications. One is called Own It, OWN, and then IT. And I also publish articles with another magazine that's called Phoenix Fitness Fanatics. They're both online. And I'm now on Substack. So I'm starting to blog on Substack. So if anybody would like to follow me on there. But writing and speaking is really what my passion is, helping others through the written word, helping each other, helping others through public speaking, to be in front of people, to talk to them, also to be one-on-one with people and work with people on how they could connect to themselves, connect to their heart. So those are the things that really impassion me, is really talking about the heart, whether it be writing, whether it be the written word or the public speaking. One of the talks that I do is called Why is it important to listen to the voice of your heart? And I've done that in an international conference a year ago. And that's actually where my picture came from in the Dominican Republic. It's a picture that I took of the beautiful ocean there. It was just, oh, on the beach. So that's what really is my passion, is really helping others and really helping them understand and motivate them that there's more to their heart than it being a pump, that there's more to medicine than just a traditional go to a provider, get some pills, and be on your way, that there's more things. And it impassions me that I always say there's always something you can do to help yourself. There's always something. So, never feel like you can't help yourself, because there's always something you could do to help yourself.
Thank you so much for that. And we can see your passion. It's on your face for our listeners who watching on YouTube. And if you're listening, it's written all over Teresa's face as she's talking about it. So you can hear the passion in your voice as well. So it's I really feel that you're passionate about this, and it's wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us, sharing your wisdom and your guidance and your knowledge with us today, and just being part of our guests and just sharing your energy. It's been a really powerful episode today, and as you said, we can always help ourselves, and that is such a great way to, or last bit to finish off on. So thank you so much for that. We really appreciate your time with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it. So thank you for the work that you do. It's important work. So thank you.
And for our listeners, what have you got from today? Are you connected with your heart, or is this something that is new for you and you're thinking, what am I missing? Oh my word, I need to really connect with my heart. Or are you one who has been listening to your heart and really embracing your emotions? We would love to know, what aha moments have you got from this episode today, and any advice or tips that you want to share regarding listening to your heart. We would love for you to share. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Here is your reminder about our Patreon, where you get all our really beautiful gold nuggets. And today we had a fantastic gold nugget to share. Subscribe to Patreon. The link is in the description below. Hop into the gold nugget section to access all our wonderful gold nuggets. There is also a free section where you can access snippets from past episodes, as well as some great content with tips, advice, and beautiful and wonderful wisdom. Come and join up and be part of the Into Your Life community. We would love to see you there.